Are we in the middle of an AI hype cycle? Absolutely. Are we in the middle of an AI bubble where it'll go bust and there'll be no AI? No.
At Zerodha, it's been more than a year since an internal AI policy was built, saying that jobs would be secure even if AI comes into picture.
We have a small tech team. I get asked about it very frequently. I think most tech predictions in the world have been abject failures. So I don't really know. I've stopped Googling technical stuff for the last year. And with the advent of LLMs, it's going to be exponentially more. Right? There will be tons of articles, blogs, websites, etc. that pop up, populated entirely by LLM. So garbage, a lot of garbage for driving search traffic. Human beings still have not been able to define and arrive at a consensus on what human intelligence is, right? How can you possibly arrive at a consensus on what AGI is? So when you ask Siri, Siri is quite dumb. We have one of the highest concentration of engineers and software developers in the world. If you look at the number of open source projects that come out of India, we would rank really, really, really low. Not just sad, it's also scary.
Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Tech Talk. I'm Vandana Nair, Technology Journalist from Analytics India magazine, and I'm pleased to be interviewing one of the co-members and CTO of India's largest broking firm, Zerodha, Dr. Kailash Nadh. Hello Kailash, how are you?
I'm good, thank you Vandana.
So Kailash, let's begin with the journey of Zerodha. When you started in 2013, you were one of the co-members and have grown the tech team to great heights. So can you talk to me about your journey and the technology infrastructure that has gone into Zerodha?
So Zerodha was started in 2010 as a small discount broking firm. The term implies offering broking services at a very discounted price. And pricing was a huge barrier back in the day. So that was the first small disruption that Zerodha brought about. I think by sheer coincidence, I met Nitin in 2012, and I was a hobbies techie engineer. I still am, and we hit it off. And I got interested in finance and capital markets. Actually, I have no interest in finance or capital markets, but I saw that it was a green field. There was no technology happening. So for an engineer, that's like a big deal, being able to build stuff where nobody else is doing much. So that's how it happened. In 2013, we started Zerodha Tech, and that's when the tech journey of Zerodha began. Okay. We started small, digitizing very tedious workflows that we had in the office. We had a few people who deal with long Excel sheets, paperwork, etc. We started digitizing the company inside out. There was no product roadmap, there was no plan to build an investment platform, etc. We absolutely began from first principles. A year or so later, once we digitized enough of stuff inside, people saw the power of automation. And slowly that DNA of tech, can we solve this? Can we automate this? Can we solve this with engineering? That slowly started building up. And at some point, we figured it was time to build a consumer-facing product. That's how we started working on our first investment platform. It came out in 2015. So for 2-3 years, we were just building everything bit by bit internally from scratch. And then it has grown organically and steadily. We have a small tech team. I get asked about it very frequently. It's not really by design. We didn't say that we'd only ever have X number of people. It just worked out that way. But of course, we'd always, being lean and nimble, that's in our DNA. And we've built our entire tech stack using free and open source technologies that have been available out there. You pick up the best database from wherever in the world, you pick up the best front-end framework, you stitch everything together, you build your product. That's how everything is built anyway. So we've had a very first principles, open source based, self-hosted, we need to own the tech piece sort of a view from the get-go. And here we are.
Would you be able to talk about some of the free and open source softwares that were used when you built the platform?
Oh yeah, we were heavy users of Python, the programming language. We still are, and Python is one of the most popular, most widely used programming languages in the world. We picked Postgres as a database. It has served us really well over the last decade plus. We use Redis, for instance, again, one of the most popular databases, in-memory databases out there. So we adopted the Go programming language, which was in its infancy in 2014. But that has also really served us really well. I mean, it has been a big part. It has played a huge part in us being able to scale, being able to build so much with a small tech team. So nothing esoteric, just good quality, battle-tested stuff that we picked, learned, and used over many, many years. And the stack has evolved. Several dozen high-quality free and open-source software that we use today powers the entire stack.
Yeah, so Kailash, would you say that companies should rely on open source architecture, and are there exceptions to it?
I think at this point, in 2024, that question is moot. Every single company out there most definitely uses open source software to build stuff. The only question is what proportion of it. And I'd say that most companies that have been incorporated or built in the last decade use 90% open source stuff to power their stuff. So everybody from governments to for-profit corporations to tiny little startups that are being built, everybody immediately pick and choose the highest quality open source software out there to build out whatever they want to build out. So everybody is built on open source technologies today.
And how has that evolved, say, in the last 5 years, in terms of, say, options that are there for companies to work on and platforms that are available?
It's exploded specifically in the last 5 years. I'd like to cite this one particular example of, let's say, database. Database technologies are old. They've been around for 40, 50 years. And SQL relational databases, SQL-based databases, these have been at the forefront of databases. But over the last 5 years, we've seen an explosion of niche, specific purpose databases that do amazing stuff, but handle a very specific niche. So ClickHouse, for instance, it's built specifically for large volumes of data, and it can't really be used as a general purpose database. And there are so many that have just appeared in the last 5 years. Amazing quality, insanely good engineering, and that's just database. You pick anything, front frameworks for building front ends or back ends, or there's even been an explosion in programming languages themselves. And programming languages are notoriously hard to build, right? It's just, there's so much that's happened in the last half decade.
All right, great. So at Zerodha, it's been more than a year since an internal AI policy was built, saying that jobs would be secure even if AI comes into picture. So how do you think it has changed now, or how it has been impacted in the last 1 year in terms of the amount of AI integration that has happened at Zerodha, and in terms of the evolution of the tech roles that are there in Zerodha?
So it's still too early to say. We're talking about barely a year after the explosions really happened in the field. The AI policy, when we instituted it, really helped calm down people. A lot of people were really worried. And we have been extremely careful about integrations. We've definitely ramped up the R&D. To give you an example, so we have a very large support team, and we get massive volume of calls and support tickets from a large number of clients, mostly people who are unhappy, because you only raise a support ticket if you are unhappy.
Yes.
We have a very large quality team. So we've been experimenting with self-hosted open source models that have practically appeared in the last 6 months to analyze calls internally, to classify them as very important, needs to be looked at urgently, etc., etc. There was no other way to do this, to, let's say, transcribe a voice call. That's a huge task, but now it's fairly easy with some of these models. Once you transcribe it, to analyze the semantic contents of the query itself or the interaction itself. So you can stitch these together, and the quality team can now prioritize calls to analyze, where, let's say, a customer was extremely unhappy, or the flow of the conversation, the interaction wasn't coherent, etc. It's just one R&D project that we're doing. Bunch of very similar things, but you'd notice that these are all things that complement our existing workflows. We're not trying to replace or outright apply AI or introduce chatbots. We don't even have an AI chatbot on a support portal. That would be the easiest thing to do. So we are being very, very cautious and careful, and we are trying to improve quality of life for the people here using these models and technologies.
And would you say that the job roles, say the description, has evolved with AI?
Sorry, I missed answering that. Not really. So we have a very small team and people dabble with everything. So our motto really is whatever has to be done, has to be done. Whatever needs to be done, has to be done. So let's say we have 2 people in the team who've taken an interest in these technologies, who've been learning, doing R&D, understanding, etc. At the end of the day, a lot of these AI technologies and models have just become commodity. You operate them like any other software. You're not doing research, building these from scratch. We are looking at applications. So all you need is prowess, skills, and engineering skills and an interest to use these technologies for day-to-day applications in an organization. So people have just switched over to focusing because they've taken an interest. We are not really hiring for any AI roles or ML roles. I don't think those are necessary at this point.
How cautious should one be when implementing AI tools in sectors such as banking and investments? Is it possible that there are limitations to this? That's why there's not been much of adoption in financial sectors as a whole?
One should be extremely cautious in using the recent AI breakthroughs, especially, say, large language models, anywhere. Chatbots are a very obvious use case, very easy to quickly now build a sophisticated LLM-based chatbot. But these are not perfect systems, right? They're extremely powerful, and for specific use cases, if you're super cautious, they are extremely effective. But you can't just unleash these technologies just because you're excited by it in critical areas. We've all heard of the word hallucination. So if you use a large language model, there's a high probability that it can hallucinate in some edge case scenarios. And you can't predict all possible scenarios. So one has to be very, very careful. Why haven't these technologies been adopted? It's only been a year. And I think the question is it should not really be looked at as a solution chasing a problem. Oh, there's this LLM, where do we use it now? It shouldn't be like that. When you stumble upon a problem that really requires, let's say, an LLM or its capabilities, that's when you use it. So I think that it's too early, firstly, and there's a lot of hype and frenzy. And I've seen that a lot of implementations, early implementations, ChatGPT comes out, APIs are open, 2 months later, everybody's using it. Such implementations tend to be not very well thought out. So this requires more time for us to see better model integration. I'm not talking about, let's say, LLMs alone, but all kinds of AI/ML technologies that are emerging.
So do you believe that we are in some sort of an AI bubble or some sort of AI hype cycle that's happening currently?
Oh, hype cycle, absolutely. Like with any other technology, there's a new breakthrough, there's a lot of hype. I always cite big data as an example. People don't talk about big data anymore. I think it's become commodity. But there was a time where everything and everybody was about big data. Big data will solve this, it'll solve poverty, it'll solve climate change. But it was just a buzzword. So, are we in the middle of an AI hype cycle? Absolutely. Are we in the middle of an AI bubble where it'll go bust and there'll be no AI? No. These technologies are legit. There's mounting evidence that they can solve a lot of problems out there. Not all problems, specific problems. I myself, anecdotally, I've stopped Googling technical stuff over the last year. I interact with a chatbot and I save minutes to hours every single day delving right into technical solutions. When you get stuck with a complex tech problem, you have let's say stack trace or whatever, typically you'd Google, you go on n number of web pages, you read hundreds and hundreds of comments, etc., looking for that one clue that will help you solve it. But some of these LLMs like ChatGPT, they're so powerful that you dump the stack trace, they'll immediately point out saying, you should explore this. That's me saving 45 minutes on one problem. So I don't even Google technical queries anymore. So this stuff is effective. And this is just one tiny domain, me looking for technical solutions. Yeah.
So is it possible that there would be a future where we'll move away from Google search completely?
I think so. I mean, firstly, the quality of general search results have been deteriorating. The internet has been, there's this theory called the dead internet theory, where people posit that internet is already dead. Most of the content, most stuff out there is generated by bots. Mm-hmm. And with the advent of LLMs, it's going to be exponentially more. Right? There'll be tons of articles, blogs, websites, etc. that pop up, populated entirely by LLM. So garbage, a lot of garbage for driving search traffic. So I think traditional search will kind of die because of the huge quality issue. And also, if you really think about it, search originally was a discovery problem. You had web pages on the internet and they talked about various things. You wanted to know about a certain thing. So the search engine would show you reasonably relevant results, and then it was your job to go into every single web page, read the entire thing, etc. But that was a solution, that was a non-ideal solution to a knowledge problem. If you have a certain question and you get an immediate answer, that is the easiest way to gain knowledge. Why should you click through 100 web pages, right? So it was always a suboptimal solution for a problem. But I think now search will gravitate more towards direct question and answer sort of format. Of course, you need citations, etc. So web pages will still be cited. But like I said, I don't Google anymore technical stuff, right? I just ask, get a question, and move on. That's really how you seek knowledge. I don't want to browse through hundreds of web pages. So is search changing? I think absolutely, for multiple reasons.
Okay. Vinod Khosla recently said that in 10 to 15 years, a lot of agents would be running the internet. They would be conversing from our end and interacting with each other, and everything would be just run by agents. Yeah. Now, is this a plausible scenario, and is it something that we need to look forward to, or is that kind of like a scary future prediction that he's made?
I think it's very likely, but perhaps not in a nice way. If you take social media, for example, you'd see that there's tons of bot-generated comments activity. You can see that a lot of things are just manufactured by bots. So on social media specifically, it seems, especially after the explosion of LLMs, that it's a lot of bots interacting with bots. You see this on Reddit, you see this on Twitter threads, and people have been talking about it. So it's already happening. It's just bots chatting with bots in a lot of places. And does that produce value for anyone? Not really. It's just a lot of noise. So that is happening. That's unstoppable anyway. Malicious actors are going to unleash bots that go, defile discourse on the internet. It's already happening. But a bot taking an instruction from us and going on the internet and getting it executed, that's also already happening. When you ask Siri, Siri is quite dumb, but when you ask Siri a question, it is going on the internet and finding you an answer. These things will improve. So it's already happening. I've seen bots, I've seen agents being used by people where they say, order me a pizza, and it'll interact with the local app and it'll order pizza, etc. And I think Amazon Alexa, as a large experiment, attempted to do this, but it was perhaps that back-end technologies weren't good enough. So are we headed to a future where this will be the case? I think absolutely. It's just a matter of time. Is it going to be a nice one? I don't know. I don't think so. There are people who ruin everything.
So there are now these software platforms like say Devin or ChatDev, which came out, which works on this principle where AI agents converse and execute a task. But I think there's still limitations to it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Very limited today. But like I said, it's a matter of time.
Multimodal will soon be a thing was something that you had mentioned last year. So now we see a lot of platforms that have already implemented it, maybe ChatGPT, Gemini.
Yeah.
So is this the kind of multimodal platform that you were foreseeing, or is it something more than what we have right now that you were talking about?
It's basically this, and it'll only keep growing. So an LLM can only deal with language and text, but which is a great breakthrough in itself. See, I've already commoditized it in my head. People take all these things lightly now. But text is just one interface. As you start integrating more and more of your real-life workflows, you need more things. You need to work with images. You need to work with an understanding of, let's say, space. You need to work with videos. That's how our workflows are, right? We work with not just text, but all kinds of stuff on our computer or phone. So naturally, there's already a big demand in the way humans interact with computers. So an LLM that only does language will be quite limited. So it's inevitable and natural evolution for these AI technologies to be able to handle more modalities. So ChatGPT now understands images. It can generate images. It's all coming together. So even if you stretch the bar and talk about the attempt to create artificial general intelligence, that would definitely require more models, right? It would require visual input, auditory input, all kinds of things. So it's inevitable that all these technologies will definitely gravitate towards being able to handle more and more and more modalities. So we've seen image, video, text coming into one. More things will come in, more things will converge in ways I think we can't even imagine now.
So do you see any particular mode of modality which would be one of the most important ones in the future?
I think voice is going to be big. Text, so we are very familiar with text and graphical user interfaces, right? And they're perfect for a lot of things, but they're not really perfect for a lot of things. I can ask you a question verbally in 1 second, but for me to, let's say, articulate, use the right words, etc., and type it out, it takes several more seconds. So articulating text and typing it out it's painful compared to just natural human communication. That's also why my mother sends me a lot of voice messages on WhatsApp instead of typing, because typing is tedious. So I think we'll start seeing all the bits that humans like, that are natural to humans, let's say voice, etc., picking up prominence as interfaces amongst these technologies. Again, it's just logical.
You've been a proponent of open source platforms, and with FOSS, free and open source community, what is the larger goal that you had in mind when you started something like this? And do you see that things have evolved with AI tools in these communities itself, maybe in terms of implementing them or maybe coming up with new ideas?
So my mental foundation as an engineer, as a hobbyist programmer, is that of free and open source software. When I started out at an early age, more than 2 decades ago, I copy-pasted code from the internet, changed it. That's how I learned, trial and error. So it felt natural that the stuff that I wrote as an experiment, I pushed it back on the internet for others to see and learn and use. So it was very natural. I didn't realize that it was called open source back then, but it was just so natural. How could I have possibly learned if I couldn't just freely read and copy paste from the internet and change stuff, right? So then I realized that, this thing is called open source. It's a movement. There are licenses, there are ideologies, there are entire political battles behind this. So that's really my mental foundation. And why we started FOSS United, the non-profit foundation, 4 years ago in India, was specifically because of a gripe that we had this huge startup boom. Every single startup, 100% of the startups are built on top of open source technologies, one way or other. But you see very little open source innovation coming out of India. When I said earlier that we use Python, we use Go, we use the best database in the world, not just us, everyone, these are all stuff being built outside of India. Now that's the beauty of open source. It has no geographical boundaries. But projects, high quality engineering coming out of a certain geography is indicative of a certain culture, a spirit of giving and sharing. And if you plot India on that chart, we have one of the highest concentration of engineers and software developers in the world. If you look at the number of open source projects that come out of India, we would rank really, really, really low. And that is so disproportionate. It is not just sad, it's also scary. We don't want to become a large community of people who just take and consume freely. We also should give back. And it's really important for the tech ecosystem, because that's how you learn, that's how you collaborate, that's how your tech depth deepens, not by just consuming, by creating and giving back. So we started the foundation to encourage people to do all of this. We organize FOSS meetups, we work a lot with students, we encourage them. We worked on FOSS grants. We gave no strings attached grants to upcoming FOSS projects to encourage them. And these are all efforts. Ideally, we shouldn't have to do this, because we'd assume that a large tech community that uses open source entirely would produce, but for whatever socio-cultural reasons, it hasn't been the case. And how have the FOSS communities globally played out in this new AI wave? Every single breakthrough apart from the ones produced by very large corporations, every single other breakthrough has come as an open source breakthrough from disparate open source communities out there. Somebody working on stuff in their free time, college kids, they go home, they're passionate about this stuff, they do trial and error, they figure something out, they release it. That's a big open source AI breakthrough of the week. So of the hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands and tens of thousands of AI related breakthroughs in the last 12 months, 98% are from hobbyists and open source communities. That's the beauty of open source and open source communities in general.
So has this community been just growing in the last, say again, 4-5 years? And with AI in the picture, how have these communities changed or transformed?
Not necessarily with AI in the picture. Open source communities are about open source software. And open source software can be anything. Can be AI, can be non-AI, could be absolutely anything. The communities that we've been working with specifically in India, very nascent. These are all small communities, and we are one tiny org trying to, involve ourselves in community activities. Is there interest in AI stuff? Oh, absolutely. But that's not just in FOSS communities, that's everywhere. Everybody who has anything to do with tech, they are all interested.
Okay. And you mentioned about where India stands, right, in terms of more than consuming, we want to be a giver as well. Do you say that something at the present is not working well? Is that why we don't see a lot of these contributions? Like, how can that be fixed, or how can we get more people involved in this?
So there's no singular answer for this, and I've personally thought about this quite a bit. Young kids, for instance, who are spirited, who want to hack, create, innovate, why are they, who participate in, let's say, open source activities and hackathons and whatnot in colleges, when they go join a startup or a tech company, what happens where they kind of stop contributing? I think there are many reasons, but one of the biggest reasons is that our industry as a whole has not encouraged engineers to participate and give back. If your company does not have an open source culture where it appreciates using, but also strives to give back, produce, then you can't really produce. Most of your time is occupied in working for an org. So some of the biggest open source breakthroughs that you see are from not just hobbies, from people working at organizations where they end up building something for the org. They turn it into a reusable component and push it out. But that needs the org's approval and blessing. That culture is practically non-existent in our vast tech industry. The number of companies that encourage their engineers to think of open sourcing solutions that they're building, I can count them. Yeah, so it's a cultural issue, and I have felt that if the industry pushed for collaboration and giving back, that would be the biggest boost to this culture, because there are skilled engineers, there are people making all kinds of amazing things. It's not coming out because there's no environment that is conducive. So I would blame the industry as the biggest culprit in us just consuming and not producing culturally.
Okay. And you mentioned about collaboration in terms of?
Collaboration in terms of global tech communities. So when I use a piece of open source software, it would perhaps be built by, let's say, somebody in Germany. They would have created it. Then they would have received contributions from 20, 30 other countries. And you participate on the online forums to improve the system, improve the code. And that's how open source software keeps getting better and better. So giving back is also participating. You don't have to create stuff from scratch. You can go improve something that you like that exists out there. That also is giving back. But that also really requires encouragement and an environment for people to contribute. And it's actually a win-win, because every engineer who participates in an open source project, they're gaining immense amounts of technical depth and knowledge with every contribution. So it's a win for the industry. But like I said, it's not looked at rationally for whatever reason. Not even looked at rationally. Forget the philosophy of open source.
How do you feel about the evolution of AI and people being, empowered to use AI tools without actually knowing the basics of, say, programming? Would you say that this is the new route of learning by, actually bypassing the actual fundamentals of knowing something? So is that a good thing, or is this how I would say learning is tending towards?
I don't have a clear answer. I don't know if it's good or bad. It probably lies somewhere in the middle, because the same thing can be applied to pretty much every other technological breakthrough. When we had calculators, people said that you use a calculator, you will become mathematically dumb, lose out basic skills. But we've seen that in reality, in real life, you don't have to have a deep understanding of mathematics. You just want to get stuff done. And a calculator is a great tool. And today, nobody blames a calculator for making people dumb. Is it true that, but a calculator only does one thing? AI can do n number of things in infinite ways, right? So can it really make people dumb if there is over-reliance? Maybe not dumb, but relatively. If there is an over-reliance, can it affect people's critical thinking skills? I think it can. Because if you just have a voice agent and you ask it whatever, you always get an answer. You'd never have to do anything for yourself. But then the question is, do you really have to do a lot of things for yourself that today you have to do because there are inadequate tools? Okay. Why should one spend hours Google searching and researching a certain thing if you can get an answer? So it's very unclear. And with every tech breakthrough, another example, the entire world runs on Excel sheets. I mean, large corporations to tiny shops to everybody uses Excel sheets. Most people who use Excel sheets don't really know the fundamentals of, spreadsheets or the underlying whatever. But they know that it's a tool and they work with it in creative ways. So this will also be pretty much like that. So there are all these factors and it's too early to tell. So I don't really know. I think there'll be enough good and enough bad.
Okay. And with the way AI is advancing now, do you foresee something that is not going to work well in the future?
It's I think most tech predictions in the world have been abject failures. So I don't really know. But one thing that I'm kind of certain, perhaps maybe, is that over-reliance on AI for decision making, which it will increase. It's already happening, where you have AI black boxes deciding stuff. Should this person get insurance? Should their claim be validated? Whatever. These are simple use cases, but it'll be used in more and more places for decision making, for denying human beings, let's say, their rights. That won't be pretty. And I think that is bound to happen. If you judge humanity by history, we'll see that, for convenience, corporations, governments, etc., will start using AI for decision making. It's natural. But will it be nice for human beings and societies in general? I don't think so. And of course, weaponization of AI and any technology, that's a given. Yeah. I'm pretty sure malicious actors are weaponizing. I'm pretty sure for military and defense, governments across the world are weaponizing AI. Yeah. That rarely ends so well. So
and you had briefly touched upon AGI, artificial general intelligence. What do you have to say about that? Now we're having a lot of predictions by these tech leaders who would say maybe in 5 years we'd get there, but with certain conditions. So what is your understanding of AGI, and is it something that we need to fear, like how sci-fi movies have shown us, or is it just going to be as natural as possible? It's just going to fit into the equation?
I think AGI is an amazing concept. If you create a synthetic being which can reason like a human being, which has empathy, which has human-like skills, that would be one of the biggest breakthroughs in human history, right? Beyond science itself, like the philosophy of being a human. That in isolation would be amazing. So the problem with AGI is not AGI in isolation. The problem with any technology is not really technology in isolation. It's how people will use it. And guaranteed people will abuse it. Human beings abuse every single piece of technology for whatever purposes. In that way, it's absolutely scary. If you have this all-powerful technology, everybody is going to use it to further their interests. And that won't be nice. So that's a given. But will it happen in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years? I have no idea. Post LLMs, there are a lot of predictions with tight timelines coming out. But if you dial back 2 years, there were no such predictions. So nobody really predicted LLMs either in that sense. I have no idea. But I also have a feeling that AGI won't be just one thing saying, oh, there's this GPT-7 and this is AGI. It'll be incremental, slow boiling frog. There are people who already argue that some of these models that have come out in the last year have AGI-like capabilities, but way more people disagree. So human beings still have not been able to define and arrive at a consensus on what human intelligence is, right? How can you possibly arrive at a consensus on what AGI is? So even if whatever AGI is, I don't know what it will be because I don't know what human intelligence is really. I think people won't be able to agree. So I don't think there's going to be in the near future a thing where somebody builds something and people are like, oh my God, that's AGI. I don't think people will be able to understand or even agree. So it'll be interesting to see.
Okay. So great, Kailash. Now we spoke about a lot of tech things. Now I want to understand you on a personal level. So I've just made these few small questions, like maybe one-liners or one words.
Yeah.
So I'd give you a bunch of options, and which one would you choose? But to start off with, what are your hobbies apart from software development?
I tinker a lot. I tinker with software a lot, but generally I like tinkering with stuff. I read a lot. Basic bit of gardening, which I've done for a long time, is just an interest. I like data. It's not data in that sense. I like language in general. So over the last few years, many years, more than a decade, I've been spending a lot of time on language and dictionaries. So I have a bunch of open data dictionary projects, and I'm really fascinated by dictionaries. So one of my eventual goals is to have a high quality open source dictionary for every Indian language. So we managed to, have like 4 or 5 languages covered. So I'm fascinated by that, words, semantics. Yeah.
Okay. What is your go-to fitness routine?
I have neglected, I've never really been unfit. I used to do yoga, I used to cycle, but COVID was a big disruptor. But thankfully, I've gotten back into my routine of just doing basic exercises at home, body weight training, etc. Bit of yoga, nothing fancy. I don't want to get shredded like Nitin.
Great. Is black your favorite color?
I like black. It removes the burden of choice. I have a lot of black t-shirts and shirts. You're going out, you going to the office, just pick up a black shirt and wear it.
Dosa or idli?
Dosa.
Are you an early bird or an alert owl?
Somewhere in between. Sometimes I have early bird faces. Sometimes it's a bit off whack.
Okay. Yeah. Any pet peeves?
So many. So many. When I came to Bangalore, just an anecdote, 12 years ago, I found the traffic so horrible, and I remember people telling me, it's okay, you'll get used to it. 12 years later or 13 years later, every time I get on the road, I get so insanely pissed off when people do all kinds of antics. So many such daily pet peeves. I've learned to calm myself. When somebody litters on the road so openly and freely, that really, really, gets on my nerves. Okay. So unlimited pet peeves.
Songs or movies?
Bit of both.
Any favorite songs or any favorite movies?
No, nothing that I'd like to cite in particular, but I've found myself rewatching Matrix 1 and 2 every couple of years. I really like Matrix. There's a lot of AI, philosophy. I mean, it was a groundbreaking movie that predicted a lot of things. Absolutely. So Matrix I really like.
Your favorite fictional character?
I don't have a favorite one, yeah.
Okay. Favorite city in the world?
I don't have a favorite city. There are cities that I like, that I don't like. I don't have a favorite city.
Dysfunctional optimist or pragmatic pessimist? Who do you prefer to work with?
I am a pragmatic pessimist, and 100% I can work with a pragmatic pessimist. I'm really pessimistic, but thankfully I'm not dysfunctional. I do stuff every day. So pragmatic pessimism, I think it's the one thing that can push someone through a messed up society, push someone ahead.
And if a biopic is made on you, which actor should play your role?
There should never be a biopic. It'll be so cringe, so please.
All right. Thank you so much, Kailash. It was a wonderful interview. We've learned a lot from this session, and thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.